Hi, I'm Anthony Originello, CEO of the Chartered Professionals in Human Resources for BC and Yukon. We represent more than 8,000 members, and as the organization dedicated to advancing the HR profession through education, advocacy, awareness, professional development, as well as our recognized and impactful CPHR designation, we are proud to be a sponsor of this show. We have been the voice of the HR profession since 1942. Learn more about us at cphrbc.ca.
In this episode of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Yuri Fulmer, the first person in British Columbia to put his name forward to take on the leadership of the Conservative Party of British Columbia. Yuri, welcome.
Thanks, Jude. Pleasure to be here.
Interesting job that you have right at the moment, which is candidate. What does that job look like? What do you do on a daily basis?
Honestly, I haven't worked this hard since very early in my career. And anybody who thinks being a politician or an aspiring politician in my case is easy, it doesn't understand the work that's involved. It's 16-hour days, 7 days a week. The travel schedule is onerous. I mean, this is a big province. And first and foremost, I want to meet people where they live and work. And that doesn't involve Zoom. That involves actually getting on a plane and traveling to small towns and communities throughout the province. And anybody who's flown Air Canada or WestJet in January in British Columbia knows that is not the most reliable service that we have, but happy to do it. It means talking to a lot of folks. There are a lot of folks who are both members of the party. There are a lot of folks who we would like to be members of the party. So you're on the phone with people all day long. Campaigns cost money. So you're trying to raise money. And the rules in our province mean you raise money about $1,500 at a time. So the average campaign costs a couple of $1 million. So you do a couple of $1 million divided by 1,500, which is the max contribution. And obviously the max contribution's out of the reach of most folks. So you're raising money in smaller amounts. So divide 2 million by a smaller number. That's how many people you have to talk to. So it's honorable work. It's the best work I've ever done, but it's hard work.
You also have to run a campaign team.
Yeah.
So you're a manager as well.
Well, that's actually been the pleasure. One of the things that I said initially was that if I'm going to say to the Conservative Party in the province that I can manage a broad coalition of the right of centre, then I need to have a broad coalition of the right of centre on my campaign team. So we have a very diverse group of folks, from folks who are part of the original founding of the BC Conservative Party, not 100 years ago, but the sort of the refounding of it, through to people who were members of BC United, BC Liberals back in the day. So we have the diversity in our campaign team that I think exists in the membership. And we have to manage that every day. And we do it by having sometimes tough conversations, sometimes easier conversations, but we all come to a place that we can all nod. And does everybody get what they want every day? Absolutely not. Does Yuri get what he wants every day? Still not. But that's what we need to do in the party, and we're trying to demonstrate that every day in our campaign team.
So how many people are on that campaign team?
Well, it grows and grows. So if the core team of folks who draw a paycheck, I think we're 11. If we go out to what I would call senior volunteers, folks who are organizing in community for us, we're probably in the 40 or 50. If we include, the 93 riding captains, we're probably up to a couple of hundred folks now.
So of that 11 or 12 that are in your core campaign team, how many of them are direct reports to you?
Well, I'm fortunate only one. So the campaign manager reports directly to me, and everybody else reports into the campaign manager.
You have to have that kind of organization.
I say this with zero ego, there are things in a campaign that only the candidate can do. Right? So sitting here talking to you is one of those things that only the candidate can do. Meeting people in community is one of the things only the candidate can do. But there are a lot of things that the candidate doesn't need to be doing every day, so that I can focus on meeting British Columbians where they are. And so I'm super grateful to have an amazing team led by an amazing campaign manager who makes the machine work all day, every day, so that I'm able to do the things I need to do.
Well, the thing that we like to do here on Careers That Matter, say, okay, that's your current job. Let's go back to the beginning of your career. You grew up in Australia.
I did. I grew up in Australia till I was just before my 17th birthday, and then I went traveling for a while.
So
In
had
Australia,
you
we call it
graduated
walkabout.
from the...
I graduated from grade 12,
Yeah.
and I left 2 days later.
And did you, at that time when you're graduating, say, oh, I know what I want to do. I want to go to Canada. I want to become a successful business person. And then ultimately I want to go on and lead a political party and become the Premier of British Columbia.
Well, so so absolutely not is the answer to that question. I was going what we in Australia call walkabout, which is you go traveling for a while. Australia is an island, so folks see a need to get off for a while. I was going to travel for about a year. I was going to come through Vancouver on my way back. So this was going to be my last stop. My parents met in Vancouver. My dad is Canadian, so my parents met at UBC. I was going to stay here for 3 weeks, then go back, and my illustrious career was going to be as a lawyer. So I guess you could say lawyer, politician. You know, I've picked the two lowest professions on the planet.
No, journalist is right down there too.
But, you know, my 3 weeks here became 34 years and the rest of my life. So I had no intent to be an entrepreneur and certainly no intent to be a politician.
What happened? You got a job at A&W.
Yeah, so I was at university. I was doing the political science, and I had one of those moments of, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And because I was funding my own university, if you don't know what you're doing, then you should probably do something else for a while. So I left university and thought, you know, I need a job, right, to get through. And I saw this company called A&W was hiring. And being Australian, I had no clue what A&W was. And at the time, the commercials they were running was a little boy with the root beer, you know, walking through the forest and, you know, rowing on a lake. So I assumed A&W was either a lumber company or a pharmaceutical company.
Oh, you didn't even know.
I had no idea, right? So, you know, I applied for this job at A&W and got an interview and found out really quickly it's a fast food company. But I needed a job, so great. And A&W was really good to me. You know, I got given responsibility that no young man should ever be given. You know, I made a lot of mistakes that I didn't get fired for. I was given a lot of chances. When I made mistakes that I acknowledged, nobody ever pointed them out to me. And when I had successes, I got a pat on the back. And so they were an amazing company. And, you know, I still have friends there. And that became the rest of my career, right? I'm still in the burger business.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who got a job at A&W but didn't say a couple of years later, I think I want to buy a franchise.
Well, you know, I wish I'd had that vision, Stu, but I didn't even at the time. So I got hired at A&W in 93. And in 1997, the executives bought the company. And
Jeff Mooney,
Paul Hollins,
yeah.
Both dear friends. And they decided to refranchise the corporate business. So we owned corporately, we owned the stores in all the big cities. And they said, you know, one of the things we'll do is we think franchisees do a better job than managers. I think they were right. And so they refranchised the corporate stores, and I would have been out of a job. So those of us who were going to get the boot were offered a chance to buy a store. And no discount, but you got to the front of the line. So, you know, I got to the front of the line, realized I could afford only the lowest volume location in the country.
Which was where?
Royal City Centre in New West. It was a food court. I think we were doing $300,000 in revenue. And that would have yielded a bottom line of like $28,000 at the time.
Pretty low ROI.
It was low volume. There were 8 of us. We wore a lot of polyester. We made a lot of hamburgers. But I went to the bank of my mom, and bless her heart, she remortgaged her condo to help get into business. You know, the real bank lent us some money as well, and I put my severance package from A&W in, and that became, you know, the rest of my life. Like zero intent to be an entrepreneur. Like I was planning on having a corporate career. You know, one day somebody would make me the vice president of something sometime. But I remember my boss at the time said to me when I wasn't sure I was going to buy this little food court, he said, very few people in life get trained to run the business that they'll ultimately own, right? Most people go into business, you know, like I like to drink coffee, I'll open a coffee shop. I like to eat, so I'll open a restaurant. But he said, we've spent 4 years training you, Yuri, how to do this. He said, this opportunity will not come along again. If you hate it, sell it in 2 years, but don't walk away from it today. It's like that Sheryl Sandberg quote, right? If you get offered a seat on the rocket ship, don't ask which seat, just get on board. And, you know, I like to think that that was very brave of me. Actually, it was just very naive of me at the time. Like, I didn't know what I was getting into.
So you get this franchise, you start running it, and it's got fairly thin margins, but you leveraged that and bought another franchise. How many did you wind up buying?
Yeah, so we're at 34 today. So again, I've been making a lot of hamburgers for a lot of my life. Like, my whole adult life has been making team burgers and root beer floats.
So you have 34 franchises today.
We do. About half of them are in British Columbia. We've got a couple in Northern Alberta and a bunch in Saskatchewan as well.
You then say, I think that Mr. Mike's over there looks like it needs a revamping. You move into that.
Yeah, it was an interesting story. So Mr. Mike's like A&W. Everybody has an A&W story, right? Everybody who grew up here has an A&W story. You know, Mum was a car hop. You know, Dad took us to A&W for root beer floats after hockey practice, whatever it was. Like, everybody's got A&W somewhere in their story. And I actually, when I came across Mr. Mike's, had not heard of it. But, you know, my mum lived here in the 60s, and my dad. And so I said to my mum, have you ever heard of this thing called Mr. Mike's? And she says, Yuri, when I arrived in Canada on the boat from Australia, I walked up Granville Street looking for the YWCA where I was going to stay. And my first meal in Canada was at a Mr. Mike's. And she said, I paid $1.29 for a steak and a baked potato. And I got a wobbly tray, and I got like unlimited salad bar. And she said, I'd never seen anything like this in Australia. I thought it was fantastic. And then I started asking other people, and everybody had a Mr. Mike story. Like, all British Columbians have a Mr. Mike story. I thought, there's got to be something in this. Like, that at its heyday, I think there were 130 Mr. Mikes. When I bought it, I think we were down to 4. And the rebranding had just started, but there was still the wobbly tray Mr. Mike's, and they'd take the kale off the salad bar and rinse it and put it back out the next day, locations. But I thought, anything that resonates and has the hearts of people, there's got to be something in this. So we tried to, build a modern day version of Mr. Mike's.
We don't have enough time to go through all the other companies that you have owned and started. You became a serial entrepreneur.
I fell in love with being in business. And it's not, it's not the spreadsheets of business. I fell in love with, people who want to build something and people who want to create something. And people way smarter than me come to me all the time and say, I've got this amazing idea. I've already done this. I've already done that. I've found some customers. I think there's a market for it over here. Here's how I want to build it out. Like, the energy that those people give you, is unbelievable. And I love being surrounded by that. I love watching people realize on something that they're passionate about, and they've found this thing that they believe the world needs. And so I've fallen in love with being around entrepreneurs and being in business.
So young person's watching this right now, because that primarily is the audience that we want to have for this show, and they go, wow, okay, I think I like the path that you took. What would you say you have discovered about yourself is core to who you are that made you right to be able to realize these opportunities?
Yeah, so I remember a young person coming to me about 15 years ago and saying, how did you get where you'd got? And I said, because I took risks and chances that other people at the time didn't seem willing to take. And so whether it was that first A&W, whether it was buying Mr. Mike's or any of the other businesses we've invested in, you always have people in your life saying no. And they say no kindly, right? They're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to get in your way. But they say no from their own perspective, which is, I can't see myself doing that for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's, I've got a good job, maybe I've got kids, I need the consistent salary. But they say no. And if you hear no enough, you kind of start to think no yourself. And not to say you don't listen to your friends and listen to your family and listen to people around you. But listen from the perspective of, is their life my life? And I think for young folks, you've got very little to lose, right? Like, when I went into business for myself at 22, I was renting a condo, I was leasing a car, I had no assets that anybody could take. I was absolutely sure I wasn't going to lose my mum's money. But I didn't need to, if I made a few bucks, I was okay. Do it when you're young and you have nothing to lose. The time to be brave is when you're young. Mm-hmm. And you've got a bit of natural naivety that I think helps as well, right? Because I think if you honestly saw the whole landscape, you'd run in fear yourself. But if you don't, I think you sometimes make better risk-based decisions. So it would be to take a chance.
Well, you took the chance and fought your way through all the challenges, because it does not come without challenges. And now you lead an interesting example for others to follow. Thanks for sharing some insights into your current role as a candidate and your career.
Pleasure.